Welcome back into the Daily Dose. I'm Jeff Hansen. The show is brought to you by Give'emHellBrigham.com. We've even got a little bit innovative with GEHB.co because apparently nobody cares about .com anymore. That's just a thing. .io, .co, whatever you want it to be. This is what happens now, and we're jumping on the trend. GEHB.co. Hey, tomorrow is a very big day for Feastbox and for BYU. It's the first official day of fall camp. Players report today. Practice starts tomorrow. But Feastbox is launching something new, something great, something exciting. Look out for that. We'll have a ton of details here on our channel because it does enhance the game day experience. And it's good for fans. It's better for fans. I'm really looking forward to it. Get excited about it. If you've never checked out Feastbox and you're here local, here in Utah, just tell the employee at the register you want to use promo code Brigham, and it's $15 off your order. No questions asked. Same as cash. Just check it out. It's a lot of fun. Let's talk about recruiting. I know fall camp starts tomorrow. Like we say, tomorrow, technically. Players report today, and practice starts tomorrow. There's a lot of things we're going to talk about over the next month as we go through training camp. But today I want to talk about the question that I got maybe 10,000 times over the weekend, and that is, Jeff, are you worried about BYU's recruiting? Utah just landed a commit from Isaiah Garcia. They've got Isaac Wilson on board. It looks like they're going to dominate in the state. Jeff, are you worried? No, I'm not worried. The number of things that I worry about in terms of recruiting in July is 0. Now, it's 1. I worry about process in July. Celebrating the results in July is a lot like pounding your chest or getting super nervous about trailing by a touchdown at halftime. Yeah, you want to be ahead at half. Of course, BYU would like to have 20 commitments, all from 4- and 5-star players here in July. That would be great. That would be ideal. But if you're trailing by a touchdown at halftime and maybe you get the ball in the second half, you're not going to be that worried about it. And frankly, I'm not that worried about it. What I am worried about is the process. And BYU is doing things well from a process standpoint. Look, guys, the Cougars were behind the 8 ball. When it comes to some of the best players in the state, BYU was playing from behind when Jay Hill took over. They just were. Right, wrong, blame whoever you want, doesn't matter. They were playing from behind. And the fact that they've caught up and they're in the conversation with some of these guys is a small win. It's not the win that you want, but it's a small win, and it's something that we should be patting ourselves on the back for as BYU fans of, hey, look, we've made it. We're this far into this. This is good. This is progress. This is a sign of the times in the future, so that should be exciting. I also am not that worried from a results standpoint. Isaiah Garcia, yeah, BYU would have loved to have Isaiah Garcia. He's also not a member of the church. He grew up in Cyprus, just down outside of the shadows of Rice-Eccles Stadium. He really wanted to go to Utah. He wanted to go to Stanford. I mean, those were the places that he dreamed of playing. BYU, not on that list. Yeah, you'd love to have him. But were you mad? Did you count BYU really losing out on Cormani McLean last year, the 5-star cornerback from California or from Florida that ended up signing with Colorado? No. I mean, yeah, BYU would have loved to have Cormani McLean, but that's not a loss. That's a long shot. And that was what Isaiah Garcia always was. Isaac Wilson. Look, a Utah fan would tell you that BYU backed off because they saw the writing on the wall. A BYU fan would tell you they backed off because they didn't really want Isaac Wilson. The truth is probably somewhere there in the middle, but BYU really didn't pursue Isaac Wilson since like December. It had been months that they'd had real consistent communication. As long as they get their quarterback at the end of the day, you're not really going to be that upset about losing Isaac Wilson. Isaac's great. I think Isaac will do good things at Utah. But recruiting isn't a zero-sum game. There can be multiple winners on the recruiting trail. There can be losers too, but it is not just a one winner, everybody, one man takes all at the end of the day. The best example of that in the class of 2024, let's look at the tight end position. Roger Saleapaga, he released his top 10 last week, and BYU did not make the cut. Would BYU want Roger Saleapaga? Of course they would. He is elite. He's a fantastic 4-star tight end from Orem High School. His brother, Keanu Saleapaga, played at BYU. Yeah, BYU would have loved to have Roger Saleapaga. It's not going to happen, But BYU has another 4-star tight end who's going to play next year in Reiner Swanson. So did BYU lose their tight end recruiting in the class of 2024? Of course not. That's silly. Yeah, they would have loved to have Saleh Apaga. They have Swanson. You're not going to be upset. There can be multiple winners on the recruiting trail. Now, the last thing I want to talk about this is to why I'm not that concerned about BYU's recruiting at this point. There will be a time for concern. If BYU doesn't start to land commitments in the next month or 2 months, you start to get a little bit nervous. But right now is not that time, and here's why. On June 19th, over at CougarSportsInsider.com, I released my top 10 recruits at that moment. I just want to run through them right now. Number 1, Maya Leowaki Smith. We've talked about Smith a lot on this channel. He's kind of ho-hum. He's kind of doing things a little bit weird behind the scenes. BYU, they seem to, that ship seems to have sailed, Smith and BYU, but it seems like BYU was the one who cut the anchors and pushed it out to sea. Noah Lugo, he visited BYU last week. He had a great time. I would kind of be surprised if he didn't flip from his commitment to UTSA and sign with BYU. So BYU got a quarterback, and the quarterback they like. Maya Leowaki Smith, though, is still technically uncommitted, and the Cougars could still be pushing for him. Number 2, Davis Andrews, still uncommitted. BYU still firmly in the mix for Davis Andrews. Number 3, Devo Tuataga, still uncommitted. BYU is still firmly in the mix for Devo Tuataga. In fact, he was at BYU on campus on an unofficial visit in Provo just this last weekend. Number 4, Iki Nasio Tupuo, also uncommitted. Everybody thought he was going to go to Washington after his official visit. He didn't. He's taken an official to BYU, and he was back at BYU just yesterday on an unofficial visit. So again, that's the top 4 guys that are still uncommitted. Top 4 guys from 45 days ago. Number 5, Faletau Satuala from Bountiful High School, still uncommitted. A lot of tea leaves saying he's going to go to Utah, but at this point, still uncommitted. BYU is still talking to him. Number 6, Cash Dillon, still uncommitted. I think you guys are starting to see the trend. The top 6 players from 45 days ago are still uncommitted. So I'm not that worried until those players start falling off the board and going somewhere else. Number 7, Nuku Mafi from West High School, still uncommitted. BYU is still in conversations and still has a great relationship with Nuku Mafi. Number 8, Carson Suesue. He is committed to BYU. Number 9, Roger Saleh Apaga, we talked about. And finally, number 10 was Jet Nelson, who is committed to BYU. So of the top 10 from 45 days ago, one of them has eliminated BYU. They replaced him with a different 4-star tight end from California. 2 of them committed to BYU. The other 7 are still uncommitted, and BYU is still firmly in the mix. Now is not the time to panic about recruiting. Now, if 3 or 4 of those players go to Utah and Notre Dame and other schools, yeah, BYU should start to panic a little bit. But until that happens, BYU is following the process, and they are following the process that fans wished they would have followed all along for the last several years. Gone are the days of offering a player who comes out of nowhere but shows well at camp for a week, offering him a scholarship. He pounces on it, commits immediately, and BYU washes their hand because they've checked the box in their recruiting class. That's not what is happening anymore. If you want BYU to get better talent, you're going to have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, because the better talent is being courted by everybody. And they're going to get pulled. These kids are going to get pulled in different directions. They have a lot of coaches telling them what to do. And from their standpoint, there really aren't bad options. It's a lot of good options. So get comfortable being uncomfortable, folks, because this is the future of BYU recruiting. That's what happens, and that's what's happening now. And frankly, that's the process. And that's why I'm not worried about it yet. If we get into September, the end of September, start to see October on the calendar, and things haven't changed, I'm going to be a little bit nervous. But until then, trust the process and trust that these coaches are taking big swings at big talent and not settling in June in the name of checking boxes and wrapping up their recruiting class. Thank you so much for tuning into us here at the Daily Dose. Please help us continue our quest to 3,000 subscribers. Until next time, give them hell.